So whenever I've had value or I've learned something, my automatic response is to try and pass it on to other people. So when I found trading, and I trained with a company called Rich Dad Education, which is Robert Kiyosaki's brand, straight away I wanted to be involved in passing that on in some capacity. Especially in the learning phase, it can be a hard slog, and there's the learning how to do the analysis and testing strategies, which is what I'm massively focused on with my students. That is, if I'm honest, it's bloody dull. Like, unless you are an analytical person that loves data and loves numbers, which I am not. Trading is not a natural skill set for me. It's something I've forced myself to learn because of the rewards I knew I could get. It can be a little bit dull. Now, that doesn't mean that when you know what you're doing, it isn't fun, of course. And the lifestyle that it can create is phenomenal. But even that, I think that's why there's skepticism, because people talk about, you can basically get rich overnight. Within 1 week, you'll double your money. That's all bullshit. And the people who double their money in a week or 2 weeks, guess what happens the week after? They lose it all. And that's not sustainable. So why are people talking about risking 5%, 10%, half their account to have these glorious winning trades when the next day they lose it all? I'm not about that. It's about low risk, systematic processes, and that's how you get the rewards on a consistent basis. So I only risk 1%, maximum 2% per trade of my entire account. And with that, we can still get 2% monthly returns, 5% monthly returns, and on from there as well. But you're not going to get 5% monthly return in your first couple of months trading. It's going to take a bit of time of learning the skill set. And that's what I always say to my students. Your first goal should be 2% consistently per month. I mean, they tend to smash that because 2% is actually, once you know what you're doing, very, very achievable. So Ian, one of my students, in his first month of trading, which was around his 5th month from the point of starting with me, made 8% in 1 month, which is better than I've made in a while, if I'm honest. But that's my whole bag. It's to make people better than I am and teach them how to do this so they can then run with it and not run away. I didn't mean run away. Run with it and do this for themselves for the rest of their lives. And that's when you have a skill set, not just a hobby. And that's what I want to do for people.
Definitely. And I think just to touch on that as well, if you look at it on a YouTube stand of things, like I had made over 310 videos before my channel got monetized. So you look at it like that, it's like exactly the same thing. You've got to learn all of that knowledge and put in those hours before all of a sudden one thing can click and then you start seeing a return on it. So yeah, amazing, man, amazing. I love that. So with Forex out the window, the coaching out the window, what's one thing that you've done that you're certain none of my previous guests have done?
Oh, really good question. With Forex out the window, I have been ordained in the church. That's probably something. Yeah. So I basically became a pastor, became a vicar type thing. Yeah. Okay. Back in the day.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, cool. So with that sort of being said as well, like how have you, give me like a timeline from like, what was you doing before you're doing what you're doing now? And how did you get into like the Forex trading? And how did you then get onto doing like the coaching stuff as well?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've lived multiple lives in one life. It's been quite a varied journey. So I'll say in terms of finance stuff, I've always had an interest in money. I've always had an interest in financial markets. I've always had an interest in property. I remember being 13 years old and doing a paper round and delivering all these papers to these houses and thinking, I don't trust government pensions. I want to own houses that I can rent out. I mean, what a random thing for a 13-year-old to think, but that's where my head was at. So I always wanted to own property and always wanted to invest in the stock market, but never knew how. Actually, at one point I tried to get my dad to open me up a stocks and shares account, but he needed like 15 grand at the time. And he was like, I'm not going to risk that on you. I was like, fair enough. Little did he know, if you trade, you actually need about £300 to start with. But anyway, that's a different story. I'm not still better. So then I ended up in church stuff. I kind of chose religion and faith for myself, still consider myself spiritual. And I went hard into that. It gave me a place of safety. It gave me a place of community. It gave me a place of belonging. And I had an incredible family type network and community all around the world. So I did that from about the age of 14. Well, probably actually about 11 is when I started to believe in something higher than. Went really hard into it from the age of 14, ended up leading church groups and stuff like that and speaking. largest group I spoke to in church stuff was about 15,000, and then having like a international business, which was basically like therapy, coaching type stuff from the age of about 18, which was way too intense, way too young, to be honest. And then
measure the guy you are as well. And do you think, sorry, just to interrupt you as well, do you think that sort of led you down a path of like coaching and teaching others as well?
Well, yeah, definitely. And it's more, I would say, that side of stuff gave me this real deep sense of wanting to help and benefit others. So whenever I've had value or I've learned something, my automatic response is to try and pass it on to other people. So when I found trading, and I trained with a company called Rich Dad Education, which is Robert Kiyosaki's brand, straight away I wanted to be involved in passing that on in some capacity. So my parents are teachers, their parents were teachers. It's kind of in my blood to teach. Like it's very natural expression process for me. And so when I was after university, I was working in retail, still doing the church stuff, but working in retail, end up in head offices. And when I was there is when I went and found Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Went on a training course. I actually signed up for a property course. Turned out I signed up for the wrong thing, and it was about trading. Went to a 2-hour seminar, which was a sales pitch. Signed up for like about $1,000 for a weekend training, too much, which was also a sales pitch for a 9-month course. Did that 9-month course, which was about $10,000, just under $10,000. Again, way too much. And then did that, went on the course. After 7 months, left my job. Started trading full time, started traveling. And then after doing that for about a year, Rich Dad headhunted me and asked me if I would come back and teach. So I said, yep, sure, I'd love to do that. Did that for about 3 years while traveling the world as well. But was getting progressively more and more frustrated by how much money we would charge people to get access to the knowledge and the information. So decided to launch my own thing at a fraction of the price, undercut the competition, I suppose, technically, but create a different vibe, a different community aspect to that as well. So blending that online content, but with also live support, which I think is vitally important with trading.
So just for me to dissect that a little bit, for the people watching and listening, you went from working that corporate job in a sense to then full-time trading for yourself. What did that look like? Obviously, you now say you teach people how to do it within 30 minutes or less, which is obviously 30 minutes or less and going to Domino's in 30 minutes. So, like, what did that look like for you in terms of, obviously, you wasn't doing it in 30 minutes when you was like learning that knowledge, right? So, what did it look like in terms of working around your 9 to 5 in a sense? And then at what point did you know, like, okay, shit, I can actually do this full time. I'm going to leave my job and sort of pursue it?
Yeah. So I actually always say I left my job too quick. I shouldn't have left my job when I did. I was just desperate to get out of it. Maybe from at that point, it was a bit of an ego thing of I want to be someone who's left their job super quick and is like now trading full time. So I'd had a few months worth of consistent profit, which gave me the confidence to think, right, I can do this. I wanted to pick up a different style of trading as well, which required more time. So at the time I was a medium term trader, which only does require 30 minutes a day. But in my learning phase, I was probably putting between 1 and 2 hours a day into it. But again, that's not necessary. It's just that's what I was doing because I wanted to try and smash through it as quickly as possible. So in the morning I would get up. I actually moved to live closer to the job so that I had more time and less time commuting so I could put more time into working. And again, this is all stuff people don't really talk about. If you want to make something work, you have to take certain actions. So not that anybody has to commute right now. Everyone just is at home. So I would get up in the morning, probably about 6:30, do like an hours or so trader training, working through the process that I had, and doing some trading stuff as well. And then I'd do it if I wasn't going out drinking in the evening. I would do the same again in the evening when I got home before going to bed. So that was kind of my process in the early days, just to learn and nail down the process. And then after having a few months consistent profitable trades and thinking, right, I've got enough money technically coming in to cover all my expenses, I just decided to hand in my notice and go for it. And that's what I did. Hollywood 6.